Revelation 3793. From the 7th of June 1946. Course of world events according to the development. In accordance with spiritual development, world events also take their course, and thus chaos will also become ever greater because humanity is constantly regressing in its development. For it distances itself ever more from the pole of love and strives towards the opposite pole, which is completely devoid of love. And this must have an earthly effect in complete chaos, in complete disorder, and thus in an unbearable existence for people, in earthly hardship, in lack of knowledge, error, wrong thinking and acting, and finally complete ruin, because nothing can exist eternally in such disorder. And thus humanity is drifting towards its spiritual and physical downfall, and that is the end. Where there is still an upward development, the state of disorder will not be found to the same extent, but the individual's life is also adapted to the general state on earth, more bearable only because he adheres to God and makes use of His help. From a worldly point of view, however, one event follows another, always in accordance with people's degree of development, and since this development thus proceeds regressively, ever greater unkindnesses also follow each other, that is, earthly measures and decrees conjure up ever more misfortune for people, suffering and hardship become ever greater, for humanity lives without God and can therefore only carry out those plans which God's adversary submits to it. And therefore no worldly improvement can be expected, for where improvement is strived for, love must prevail, but this has grown cold and unkindness only gives birth to God-opposing things. And where improvement is evident, it is only at the expense of fellow human beings, who are thereby plunged into increased tribulation. Satan's activity in the end times is openly visible and recognizable to anyone who wants to recognize. And the time is approaching when his power will be broken for a long time. But before that God allows him full freedom, for the human will is turned towards him and increases even his power on earth. And only those people who strive towards God in free will can escape his power, because they are permeated by God's power and clearly recognize the working of God's opposing power. Yet through world events all people can also recognize the one who is without love, and with a serious will they can free themselves from him. For God has placed the law of love in every person's heart and given people the intellect to clearly recognize when they sin against this divine law. And therefore he also allows the great world events to unfold in such a way that it can open people's eyes if they want to see. And it is up to them to profess good or bad actions of love or unkindness. Accordingly, his earthly life will also be more or less in order, and his degree of realization will also be the same. And the last end will not come as a surprise to him either, if he pays attention to the signs and world events, which take their course according to humanity's will. Amen.